Who said that?
Hey, welcome. So I got this quote for you today. It is, you will lose someone you can't live without, and your heart will be badly broken. And the bad news is that you never completely get over the loss of your beloved. But this is also the good news. They live forever in your broken heart that doesn't seal back up. And you come through. It's like having a broken leg that never heals perfectly, that still hurts when the weather gets cold. But you learn to dance with the limp. It's going to be a good episode, y'all.
This song is more than just a tribute to you, it's my gratitude. If I could give you more, if I could give you more than you gave to me, you know I would. And know you're gone like a note in tune. How it go in song, I always remember. You know I remember where you belong. I know we still watching. I remember Block for his smile so often gone.
Welcome back to Pie Talk. It's another episode. It's your boy B.
Hi, everybody.
AKA Be Active, with my co-host.
Priscilla Z. Happy to be here as always. Thanks for joining us today. As you know, we are Pie Talk. We are pursuing internal evolution.
Every day.
Every day. And I must say that the people that sat here and started the first episode are extremely different sitting here in the episode that we're experiencing today. And it's because we are on the pursuit of internal evolution constantly. I can't explain how grateful I am for that mind perspective to have switched so that any day, no matter what I'm experiencing, I can kind of see that maybe there's something else up. Maybe there's more to learn. And because of that, my experiences are richer, and I think that I am growing kind of like this tree. Roots are solid and getting deeper in the dirt, and I just keep getting bigger and stronger and taller spiritually.
I second that.
Yeah.
But check it out, y'all. Beautiful way to show up for us.
Yes.
Priscilla asked last week
You guys are the best.
to take us from just over 360 or 370 followers on Facebook. And she was like, I'm going to make what'd you call it? A dirty?
I said, yeah.
And then you cleaned it up and said shameless.
The shameless. It was a dirty request.
A dirty request. Her and her words, right?
But yeah,
and
definitely shameless. I wanted that 500 for whatever reason. I don't know why. It's just something I wanted. But I was definitely assuring myself that I was going to get it. And thanks to you all.
Y'all got us almost to 6. And we do this for our own spiritual growth, our evolution.
Cool. The other part of that I thought was really interesting, and this is just from my own experience, my own observation, is I said that this wasn't just for me. When I said that shout out, I said it was for everybody. Like, it wasn't just for me, that call out. And what's really interesting is the people that posted or the people that shared and the like branches of the tree that went out hit so many new people that we ourselves couldn't have hit. Like, it brought in new branches to other parts of the orchard in our area and beyond. And it was cool to watch the fruit grow. Like, it was really neat to see people that I even knew personally, but I hadn't reached out to yet. And then they came to me and were like, whoa, what is this? And I thought that maybe they already knew, but they had no idea. So that outreach and exposure is huge. And I absolutely am so grateful to everybody that participated in making sure to solidify that growth.
Well, I'm dually, doubly, quadruply just I'm humbled and I'm grateful because a lot of people that do things in the public eye, whether it be music or podcasting or whatever it is, right? It's funny because the majority of the people that watch Pie Talk are not exclusively relatives. And on that note, there's a lot of people I personally know that don't watch,
Yes.
that have not watched, and will tell me like, "Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah."
love
I
it,
actually haven't even looked at an episode.
Pretty
Not
positive.
gonna lie, you know,
like,
and it doesn't even offend, but it just
no.
goes to show like when you try to do a thing, whatever it is, don't base it on your immediate circle of
No.
affluence or support. It's good when you have it, but don't let that be a deal breaker, because I'm noticing in my personal life, whether it's my music, whatever I'm doing in the community, it's the strangers that support me the most.
100%.
It's the people I don't know that listen to Pie Talk,
100%.
that listen to my music, that pay attention to my posts and to what we have going on in the community. Sometimes the people like under my roof
Yes.
don't even know exactly what's going on within the dynamics of a show
Yes.
or what's next or what's to come. And, you know, I just really appreciate. So continue to like, subscribe,
Yeah.
and share with people that you believe that you could share your pie with.
Right.
If you made something really delicious, who are you going to take it to and be like, hey, try this?
Right. Something that I've learned recently at the Recovery Coach Academy that we went to at Pier was, and it's a really cool idea and it's very freeing and something that I think everybody should utilize as a tool. But you don't want to invest yourself in the outcome of others because you have no control over anybody but yourself. So, like when we're making this podcast, I'm making it because I enjoy it. I like the currency that we exchange. I like the currency that we gift. It's very fluid and organic. But like, I by no means make it because I expect a single person that I know or love to watch it. I don't. And in fact, the people that are the closest to me don't watch it, which is kind of hilarious. And then like even like some of the people that are the closest to me that love me that do watch it, they are not watching it like in a habitual way. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to catch up this weekend. They're doing yard work or something and they're going to watch a couple episodes and kind of have a plan in the background. And they just do it their own way. But there are other people that I have no bond with whatsoever that are like diligent and hyped up on their consumption of pie. And so what's kind of cool though, I've had people approach me and they'll be like, oh yeah, sorry, you know, I don't watch it, or I've been meaning to, and they like have this like guilt, like you could see like they look like they got caught or something because they're not watching. And my favorite thing to say is like, oh no, like I didn't make this because I expected anybody I know to watch it. I don't. I sincerely am not invested in that outcome. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for the people that need it, the people that are searching for it, you know. And it's the same thing with like books. There's a sentence or saying that says you read it when you need it. So just because I'm related to somebody doesn't necessarily mean that they need, you know, what I'm putting out. Where there are other people out there that are truly in need of this sort of connection, and I am available for that. And I like that. And also, I'm not let down. I'm not upset. And this goes into this concept of like recovery and healing and all of those sorts of things. You can be a support to your friends and family. You can be a support to your community, but you can't be invested in the outcome. You really can't.
I mean, it's just like if you got a family or friend that does a certain niche thing and they sell a particular product, if someone else sells the exact same product, then yeah, I'm going to go to the friend I know who has that when I need it. Because I don't go into their store every day or once a week and religiously buy the product doesn't mean I'm not supporting them. And so I look at it the same way, like with podcasts. A lot of people don't even listen or watch podcasts. Like we're a podcast that you can watch on YouTube that you can also listen to just through speakers or headphones. If you have podcast app like Spotify or Apple or iHeart or Amazon, subscribe. No, I'm just kidding.
Actually, you know, so we let our little one, she's been kind of like entering into the world of YouTube, you know, and she gets to watch certain things. And I mean, they're pretty dorky in my opinion. They're just like, you know, like Barbie dolls that are a person that's playing Barbie dolls and telling their little story or whatever. But now Zai makes her own videos. and she says, "Hi, my name is Priscilla Zal." And then she goes, just make sure that, at my YouTube you like and subscribe. And she's mocking the YouTube videos that she actually sees because she's never watched this. She doesn't know what this is. But it's kind of funny because it's like this concept of availability, outreach, and things find who they're going to find, however organically they're going to find them. And it is fun. Like and subscribe if you can. Tell your friends about it, just like last time. I feel like I could do one of those. I could double down right now and be like, let's up it another 100, like,
And let's go to 1,000.
Let's go to 1,000. Come on. Like, why not?
Big shout out to Elijah
Totally.
Pope. He said he was waiting for his pie fix. This one's for you, bro.
Same as Star. She said she was getting a little twitch in it.
Yeah, I just left Star. We just we're co-workers.
Yeah.
We're peers and we're peers and we're peers.
Like, so many great. Different versions of connection.
Yeah, it's super cool.
The other one too, that I guess I want to shout out to just in terms of support, but Emery. Emery is someone I recently met through Pure Olympia, and they are just a phenomenal individual. Their creativity is just, I mean, if you ever see this beautiful artist in person, you can look at their shoes, and their shoes have amazing hand-painted, like, masterpieces on their shoes that they've created themselves to just jazz up the regular everyday. But anyways, Emery, your brain is absolutely spectacular, and I really appreciate your support and connection. Emery actually wrote in recently, B posted on Facebook, who's down for a one-on-one conversation. And this can be, and we'll do a shout out right now, but this can be with anybody. I recently met somebody on accident. He came to look at something I was selling. He didn't want to buy it, and then he was worried he was wasting my time. And we ended up having one of the coolest conversations I've had in months with a stranger. And he actually, which I hope he comes on the podcast, and maybe I'll do a one-on-one with him. But he was in prison, and he drove up to my property in a beautiful, shiny, fancy vehicle. And he shared some of his stories. And as he was talking to me, he was talking about his face tattoos that he had. And he didn't have face tattoos anymore. His face tattoos were gone. So he actually had face tattoos that he decided to take off for reasons he might share if I have him come on. But it was really cool to see that he has been on the pursuit of internal evolution without this guidance or this podcast available. And when we connected, it like ignited. It was so cool. He was like, where has this been? This is so neat, And Emery said on the post, it would depend upon the topic, whether they would feel qualified or at least knowledgeable enough to speak to it. But I'd potentially be willing. And then be posted back that, you would pick. And I would like to say that there's no bar for qualification in our world. Like, I don't get to say anybody knows.
You qualify by your invite.
Yeah, you got breath in and out. And
it's all good.
We're
all experts in our own experience.
And we'll let it organically unfold. The topic could start one place, and like some of our podcasts, it could end somewhere completely different. But it's all on purpose in the way of the universe and how things are meant to be. So let's just be open and kind to ourselves and maybe how we approach that. Also, Debbie Sampson, who I love. This individual is also an internal artist. But she wrote that she's always up for good conversation with moi. Also, we've got Raven wrote in, do you have a list of topics that y'all are discussing on different days? This might be helpful to listeners who want to engage with the host or the audience. And then
I can answer that.
Yeah, go for it.
We do spontaneously do lives from our Facebook. So if you happen to see me go live, or Priscilla, or both of us at the same time,
which I'm going to get better at that,
then we're probably having a live conversation. And those are like super organic forums to talk about whatever.
Yeah, the last time we
Those
did a
are
live, it's just because like timing was really difficult to make match up, but we could meet on a live. But if lives are something that you guys want more often, if that's something that you like for engagement, let us know. And then maybe we can make that something that's a little bit more fluid or something that we have happen. Just because lives kind of remind me of like recovery support groups. And we all are recovering from life. Life is super lifey. And as we do that, it could be really fun maybe to develop like a little Pie Talk community live thing that we all get to meet and chat about whatever is flowing in the universe. It's something that, is on our mind or needs to be chatted about.
Well, summer's going to be fun.
Woo! I love it.
Tricks. So, big win.
You know what's funny? I didn't pre-think. Do I have to go first again?
I'll go.
Okay, perfect.
Big win for me is I beat that cold down to the ground.
Yeah. I love it. That's so funny. I was
down for 2 days. Some type of stomach something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But I have this feeling, and it's been like this for a while, my body just throws everything at anything that enters it. And so for me,
it was full force.
Yeah, if it's a 6 or 7 or 8 day cold for somebody else, I'm down hard for 2, but then I'm up.
Right.
On day 3, it's like,
to be real, I was in
the gym.
Are you really? That's exactly what I was just gonna say. You went to the gym, and I was like, "Are you sure you want to record? Like, do you have the energy?" Kind of thing. And he was like, "I'm ready when you are." I'm like, dang! Like, he totally has that mighty fight.
Yeah, I rather and if you get to choose, think about it. Comment.
Yeah.
If that was your choice, if you could be mildly sick for 7 days. Or very sick for 2.
Right.
What would you choose? My body pretty much chooses for me. If there's something going around that can make me sick, then it's probably bad. Because I don't get sick often.
Right.
But when I do, it's like, boom.
What?
I bounce back up.
Good job. I was like, one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Wayne Dyer, who he's like kind of power of the mind and stuff like that. He passed on. But his leadership still lives on in his word, which is really amazing. Kind of goes back to the quote that we shared at the beginning of the podcast. But he would be on an airplane and someone would sneeze on an airplane. And, like you're in close proximity and that sneeze can travel, I think, up to like 50 feet. So technically, like everybody is at risk of said sneeze. And so he would be like, he would hear this sneeze or something and he'd be like, oh, that's for other people. He's already immune to that. He already got that one. So he's good. And in his mindset, he was like combating it. And I've done that too. But sometimes when it's your turn to get it, it's your turn. So.
All right, big win before we get into this topic.
My big win goes with the topic, which I just was sitting here and I thought big win. And then I thought, oh, topic. How funny. But I am closing out, I would call it an empire of my parents. My parents were married physically on the earth for 40 years. And then my father passed on and my mom was married to, I always joke, but I would say married to a dead man. But she was still very much married to my father in that spiritual way. There was just no moving on for her. Her and him were it in that realm of her life and experience. And when he passed on, that sort of love stuff went with him. But it still was there. And then my mom passed away. It'll be 1 year here in June. And we, right now, one house is on the market. The house that I lived in for 17 years. And the next house, which is my mother's home, which is the house I grew up in since I was about 18 months old, that one will be on the market here in just a little bit. And then that's the end of it. It's like 57 years of a lot of love and growth in our family. It made all these cool kids and babies and grandbabies and all of this, but the idea of their estate or that whatever that is, their dreams, we are selling their dreams to make our own. And my big win is that I am navigating all of this with the most integrity to myself and my own moral understandings of what I was taught by them. and what I honor and cherish in their legacy. And so I've had like an opportunity. I thought I would take it. I thought about it like they would have. I diligently broke it down. I analyzed things, and it wasn't it. It's not the opportunity for me. And I can hard pass. And I've been going like kind of like on this little magical journey of where I'm headed next to in my life. And I'm not stressed out about it. And I'm not like hurting myself or traumatizing myself more in the experience of having to do really big things, really big moves for myself and my family and for my kid, and kind of creating my own legacy. And so what's kind of interesting is like you would think I'd be like curled up in a ball and that I would be all wholly devastated and like almost paralyzed, because some of these feelings are so big that they could and almost should take you out. Kind of like you were just saying about being sick. You kicked its butt. I'm kicking this whole experience with grace. I'm doing
The experience of grief.
Exactly.
Grief is the topic. And
that's where
this topic was given to us.
It's a big one.
With a Facebook post, right?
Yeah.
So we asked, and you replied.
Right.
And it is a heavy topic. It is something that
huge.
that needs to be aired out from time to time.
Right.
In our culture, it's oftentimes kind of swept under the rug, dealt with in unhealthy ways.
Yeah.
So what we're going to talk about is some of our own personal greatest losses, because, as I said in the beginning of this podcast, we are only experts in our own experience, right? I cannot tell you how to grieve. I can only tell you how I have grieved and what I have found to be my experience with grief, and I believe loss, grief,
Right.
loss, triumphs, and just, does it go away?
Right.
I don't know. I think a lot of factors play into grief. There's different levels of grief.
Yes.
Who you're grieving, why you're grieving, what you're grieving. Is it a loss? Really? Is it a gain? Or can you,
Right.
Some people, I've attended wakes in my life. I've also attended celebrations of life because people chose to honor a person's passing with a party, which in turn honored that person's life here. So they chose gratitude for the time they got to spend with the person versus grieving a lot about the time they won't get with the person because they're gone.
Right. I'm like, I almost want to use like me and my weird words or whatever, but I feel, me personally, like I am a griefeologist. Okay. So like I have been studying grief for a very, very, very long time. And I have this analogy and visual, but I always thought that like I was climbing Grief Mountain. And when my father passed away, I was 22 years old. And that was the beginning of my walk up Grief Mountain. And I thought that when you get to the top of Grief Mountain, you're done. And that you get to see this like beautiful terrain or whatever, this great experience, and you've done all the steps and the stages of grieving. And I believe they said there are 12 stages to grieving. And me personally, I feel like there are probably 80-12. Okay. Like there are so many different versions. There's been years in my life where I was not talking to my dad, my dead dad. I was done. I was done speaking to his spirit. I was done with that relationship. I was done visiting him. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't grieve anymore. So I was going to make him vanish. Just the idea and the concept of losing my father. And then, of course, I came back to him. Actually, ironically, the building that we're in, I went on this like silent I'm not speaking to you grief movement. And I was starting a business with my sister, and we had to move into a building. And I thought to myself, like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to know that it's the right thing to do? I don't have a dad. Like, my dad was the builder, the carpenter, the craftsman. He was the one that would take care of all these sorts of decisions. He would help us make these decisions. He would help us navigate. And my sister, she pulled up this little place or whatever, and she's like, wow, look at this. It looks like such a neat opportunity. We get to the place. The guy that is the person that rents to us, his name is the Colonel. Okay. He's a military man. My dad was a military man. And he basically said, I'll take care of you. No matter what happens, I'll make sure everything's taken care of when you come to this property. And I thought, well, crap, maybe dad is around. Look at that. And then I got to my porch, and right outside my porch, I can stare right across the way, and I could see an American flag. And then right past that is my dad buried in the ground. And I thought, oh, look at you. You're right there. Nice to see you again. And even though I had tried not to visit him, I magically, because of the universe, was brought to a place where I was going to have to visit him every day. And that's something that he really wanted. It's something that he honored the concept of, after people pass on, that relationship doesn't stop. And I will say, in my own personal experience, especially with now losing both of my parents, it is the worst feeling in the world to have the womb where I grew, my mother, my home, my first safe home. It's gone. Like her body is gone. But I now have a relationship with her like I've never had when she was alive. And we interact a lot. And I get clues, and I get love from her, and animal signs, and all sorts of different things. She came to me in a dream that was the most therapeutic dream in the world recently, where my older siblings had all got to go to Disneyland when they were younger, but then I was made a lot later on in life, and my parents were older, and they said Disney was a bunch of crap, and that it was better to take you across the country and see all the sights on Route 66. And I got to do some really cool stuff, but I did not get to go to Disneyland. So the little baby Priscilla inside of me, I think I have to go to Disneyland. It's just something I'm going to do for myself. But my mom in my dream took me to Disneyland. And the whole time in my dream, she knew she was going to die, and she knew she was going to leave. And I kept saying, why don't you care about you? Why don't you care that you're going to die? Like, you're not caring at all about you dying. And she packed cakes and snacks and all of these beautiful things that she normally would do. And she was so happy. And I kept saying, Mom, you're going to die. Like, why won't you focus on that? And she said, Priscilla, life is not about that. Life is about the memories that we are making right now with Zyla. That's all that matters in life. And then we went on the Dumbo ride, which is not even something I ever wanted to go on. So I will be going on the Dumbo ride with my daughter, and I will make those memories that are so valuable. But I thought it was very interesting because it goes right along in with this grief and life, and what do you hold on to? What's valuable? What's not? I can mourn the loss of the physical self. The physical body of my mother is no longer here. But that energy went somewhere. And I think it's still tangible.
What are we, if not an accumulation of our memories and our experiences, right, and the people that we have the most intimate experiences with?
Everything.
Like, I lost and I gained. I gained a friendship that started in a young age, that turned into like a brotherhood, and it got to a point where we were incarcerated in the same unit.
Oh wow!
Sharing food out of our lockers, so like that mentality carried to the streets, to the point where I've argued in relationships about my open door, open house, open car keys, open whatever policy with my homeboy Chris, because that's people that haven't, it's like when I hear my dad talk about military, you can only imagine the relationships that are put through a fire.
Right.
I never had a fist fight, an argument, nothing with Chris. We agreed that we was ride or die, and that's just what it was. If he loved his girlfriend at the time, I loved her too. If he hated her, I hated her too.
Right.
Like whatever happened,
Yeah.
it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, taking something like that type of relationship and like in the time of my life, like I said, we were incarcerated together. We knew each other in our teens. And so that relationship when you're incarcerated, like going in the locker and having like two top ramens and be like, bro, we're just gonna bust them together and cut this meat log up and
Oh.
throw it in the microwave and split it down the middle. Like whatever's in my locker. If you're hungry, he'd be like, it's your last one. I'm like, it's all good, bro. We'll hustle some more tomorrow. And having that same mentality like on the
Hope.
streets.
Sharing hope.
Yeah, and then so like when I got out, like my mentality, my relationship with him never changed to fit the world. Oh, you're out here, you can't just have homies walking in your house and going in your fridge or coming up at any hours and just grabbing your whip and doing whatever. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's blocked though. It's like
Right.
it never registered, and it never would because I would never put limitations on what was allowed. Like they don't know the pact that we developed in the place that a lot of people wouldn't survive alone, let alone with a friendship and not do no fuckery to each other to where there's falling out later and all the things. And to be in physical proximity to when he lost his life, to be the person to walk him through the hospital doors and lose that. And there was a lot involved with my life at the time. I was on bail for a crime that they were trying to snuff my life away. Like had those original charges stuck at the time, it would have been, I wouldn't be here today, right? And so a lot was like, hey, when I'm gone, this is all you. The kid that like all these different things and never thought that wouldn't be there. That wouldn't be the case.
Right.
And then it was. And then now how do you deal with grief? It depends who the person is you're grieving.
Right.
Because I've lost people in the past. I've lost people recently that I knew.
Right.
From my childhood.
Yeah.
But can I honestly say the impact of that particular loss of life is comparable to any other in my personal life? Probably not, because people say BFF and they say my best friend or oh, that was my guy, but to me that was legitimately the closest person that I've had to me for a length of time without any discrepancies, without any weird nothing. We never
chosen family. You chose to
you know what I'm saying? Like it was different. And it's I wear this on my neck because his ashes are in here. And it's funny, I'm a parent of 7, there's 3 grandbabies. This thing has been tugged and pulled and yanked and it's never been broken.
Strong bond.
I've had other chains since my release.
Yeah.
That have been broken very easily, that were thicker and better made and different material. But my little grandbaby pulls it every time I pick him up. He grabs it.
I think that,
and he hasn't been able to pull it apart. And I go to his grave. There's candlelight vigils. I attend those. I was gone for 4 years, so it's funny because the last one I attended was, I believe, 5 years to the day from when it happened. But the first one I attended was the first one. because I was still out for it. And then I was incarcerated for 4 years. And there's things that happen, there's things that come up that will remind me of him, and emotions will arise.
Absolutely.
There's times where I can go to his grave and only shed a few tears, and there's times where I pull up and I can't get out the car.
Right.
It's and it's
It's not linear.
It's not linear, and there's no right or wrong way to
No.
grieve.
There isn't.
You know, my grandma passed, and she was always the person. I've been getting in trouble. I've been going to juvie since I was 12 years old out here in Lacey, and not always was it my fault. Neither here nor there. The point is, her number was the same
Yes.
until pretty much the day she passed.
Was your number.
Every time I went into prison and needed a release address, the address was always the same, and she always said yes to me.
Oh.
And there were times where, when she went from independent to dependent and was placed in a home which was very close to me, I should have went more.
Right.
But
life,
I chose to grieve her when her dementia got worse rather than when she actually passed.
Yeah.
Because I chose to protect me, because sometimes it gets to the point where I'm like, this person passed. A friend of ours, Tyson, just passed recently. Like, Brian Johnson, a dude I knew, passed. Like, and I just was meeting with him in my peer work. He was telling me how he was going to change his life, and he was helping this person. And a couple days later on Facebook, he's gone. Yeah. Right? And what it makes, it's hard because when certain people pass, I feel drawn to my mortality. When other people pass that I've known or am close to, I feel extreme sadness. And then there's this other part of me that feels guilty, because I feel like, in a lot of ways, Block took all the grief that I had to give to death out of me. Like, I did not know how to handle loss at that time, and it was, to me, the most significant loss I've ever experienced. So I don't know what that says about how I handle grief now. And again, it depends who I were to lose.
Yeah. So I just have a couple of things that my brain triggered too. So my father, he was 12 years old when his mom prayed to die in front of him. And then she did die a couple of days later. And he remembered like running after the ambulance and knowing that he would never see her again. And he was so stricken with grief, but didn't have the tools to process. And I truly believe, like, till the day he died, he was still trying to figure out how to grieve his mother. His father died when he was in his 30s. His father was a pretty abusive guy. So even though there was a toxic relationship there in a lot of aspects, he still was then alone and abandoned in this world without parents. And that comes with a level of grief. And your chain reminds me of kind of this concept of bonds that can't be broken. And I think that is what maybe hits us all the most. So my dad, actually, there was a young lady that was stabbed in our neighborhood when I was a teen. And I was really upset about it because it brought mortality into question to me. I ran around the neighborhood in the same area at the same times as this woman was stabbed, and I was upset, and I came home, and my dad he was a pretty cutthroat, harsh guy in some aspects. And he said, Priscilla, these aren't your tears. Like, somebody else right now, her dad, the big tears are coming for her dad. The big tears are coming for her brother. You have some grieving to do right now for sure, but what they're experiencing is the most grief they will ever experience in their life. So give them space and let them do their grieving. And that her dad is still grieving to this day. Her brother is dead. So now he is a man without both of his children. And the level of grief that they experience is something that is incomprehensible to me, because it's the bonds that they have that can never be broken. That father can never escape the thought of that girl, where I can escape the level of grief. I don't think about her every day. That connection wasn't the same for me. And so my dad, like I said, he was kind of harsh in this, but he was giving this concept of these bonds that people have with certain people and the level of grief that comes along with it. And so that kind of, I don't want to discredit my own grief, and my dad's his own little game there. But when we think about grieving is a really interesting thing that happens to everybody. Everybody is going to lose people. That's just a part of life. There's birth, and for every birth on earth, there is a death. And it has to happen. It's a part of our life existence, and we have to figure out ways of processing it. So it's all about, how do you manage reality? Grief is reality. Grief is just going to come. And there are always going to be multiple levels of bonds that can never be broken. One thing my father said was, the greatest love of all is that between a parent and a child. And that a parent can abuse a child, a parent can give up a child, and give them up for adoption all the way, and that parent will still think about that child as its greatest love forever. It's something they can never escape. And so he would say something like, so Priscilla, can I ask you this? If you have a boyfriend, or if you got a husband, right? And your husband dies, do you think you'd love again? Could you find another husband? And I would say, yeah, I mean, maybe I could, And he would say, I know. Could you find another me? Can you find another dad? Could you find another mom? If you died, my kid, could I find another you? Like, I can't. I can't ever find that again. And so there's all different kinds of versions to the levels of grief that I think we have on earth. Now, just recently challenged this even to the next level. But I met a woman that lives in the same apartment complex as us. And I said, we moved here because we lost my mother. And we're kind of in transitional housing is kind of what's happening. We're just living here for a small time until we make some more decisions to go to the next place. And she shared that she was actually going through a divorce. And she was saying that she actually is grieving the loss of 17 years of her marriage, and is now going and having transitional housing, the same thing that we're going through, and is going to have to find something to move on to. But in the time in between, she's just here right now. And her level of grief to me was just as difficult or just as hard to manage as mine, even though it was just, in some people's eyes, a marriage. But to her, that's the loss of a life. It's the loss of a marriage that they shared together for 17 years. Whatever that energy is, it's gone now. And they have to process that while still having bonds that they can never break. They have a child together. They can never not have a child together. So they're still connected. So how do you grieve intermittently on different levels, and still all of us feel really, really big feelings with completely different stories, completely different perceptions of every situation?
Well, loss comes in more ways than people.
Yeah.
That's the obvious grief, right? But like her in that story, it reminded me of a concept I was going to bring up. Like, I never grieved as an adult that my childhood in my mind was wasted
Right.
on extracurricular activities in the street life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Pursuing something that was smoke,
Mm-hmm.
pursuing something that wasn't real.
Yeah.
Right? And pursuing it with such a vigor that it cost me years and years of my life, to where I grew up, physically became a man by age and legal requirements, incarcerated
Right.
because of chasing this thing from like 13 years old that was never even real or meant to go anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, and so when I'm going through these processes in retrospect and I'm thinking where the source of my angst and anger and all this stuff that I had to put somewhere and navigate and create different
Energy.
compartments,
So much energy.
you know, for to get to where I am today, a lot of it was not properly grieving
Mm-hmm.
the loss of my youth.
100%.
You know, and then you think about the different things that you missed. You know, people will have a tendency to not know that they're grieving, you know, missed opportunities,
Right.
which, you know, those are just it's another fancy way of saying regret.
Yeah. I think that, and this is something that I didn't know if I was going to share this or not, but it's another level of grief that I had a learning lesson, I guess. And it's a pretty vulnerable one, but I'm willing to share. Um, so when I was in my 20s, I was in my mid 20s, I got pregnant. And I was so empowered in this concept of having an abortion because it was something that was perpetuated around me as being something that was to be proud of, that you could take your power back, this concept of being able to control my own fate and future. And I had an abortion. And when I had an abortion, I don't want to say I was like so joyful, but in a way I really was. I was relieved. I felt so celebratory about my decision. I felt empowered. And I felt like I had done exactly what I was supposed to do in my life. And then I carried on in my life and I got pregnant again. And I was 10 weeks along, so a little bit longer than like a super early miscarriage, but 10 weeks along. I had invested in this concept of a baby and I lost the baby. And I was wrecked. I was a mess because I lost a life that I had invested my thoughts and love and time into. But what got me, the trick, is I then had to realize what was the difference for me between that baby that I had an abortion with and this baby. The baby I had an abortion with, I was 6 weeks along. This baby was 10 weeks. Not that much of a difference, but it was my mindset. I discredited that first baby as being a joyful experience to get rid of, if I'm being honest. And then when I lost a baby, it was the most devastating thing ever. And so I had to grieve the baby that I had aborted without even knowing that it was something that I was going to have to grieve. And then I had a real baby in the flesh. I gave birth to my daughter, and boof, I had to grieve both of the babies that I had no longer with me on earth and wonder why they're not here by my side and if I did make the right decisions or how life led me to where it led me to this day with the one person that I have here now, and wondering, will she ever have siblings? How much did I change in my trajectory based off of the decisions that I made? And I had to grieve again in levels that I didn't think I was going to have to grieve. And it made me really realize too that you have no control over grief.
No.
You don't get to know what's coming to your table. And it might even show up years down the road.
There's not even a mathematical formula
There's
that can fix
nothing.
grief. There's no solving grief.
No.
Right? So for those of you that wanted us to discuss grief, like, you know, there's no fixing it. There's no grief is nature.
It's nature. That's a good way of putting it. Grief is nature.
Grief is nature, right? You want to talk about anything like clouds, rivers,
right.
lakes, like stand in one. You're not going to change the trajectory of that either.
No.
Yeah. But you do get to get in it.
Mm-hmm.
You get to get out of it. You get to experience it on your terms. Sometimes not.
Right.
But when you decide to, you get to. And how you get to a point where you can decide if and when you're going to grieve,
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
It's different for everyone.
I was just thinking, I love this nature concept, grief is nature, because like there's even different seasons. Grief is going to feel different at different times of the year, different life milestones, different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's going to always be a forever progressive concept. So, like, I can even think about, like, so my mother, I'm grieving my mother as a woman who has a child. I am thinking about my mother's life when she was my age, and I'm grieving that I don't have her to connect with. Well, actually, I feel the most connected to her ever because I can see what her life was like when she was my age, doing the things with the babies and surviving like she was surviving. I have more empathy and understanding for her than I've ever had before. And then the other day, I was driving into the neighborhood, and Zyla says, I really miss Omi. I really miss her so bad. And I said, I know. And she goes, she made the best scrambled eggs. And I said, yeah, totally. And she goes, you can make good scrambled eggs too. And I said, yeah, I can. And I said, you know, someday I can be the Omi. And she goes, yeah, you could be the Omi someday. And there's going to be a point where I am the Omi to my daughter, and I'm going to be grieving my mother again in a new way that I've never done before. And I won't even know what that looks like until that season of change gets here. And it all is kind of an interesting thing to choose to perceive as, and I feel like I get pretty toxically positive on this one. Sorry, guys, but I'm rooted in my grief. I'm okay with it. I know that it's just a part of life, and that I can't change it. But the only thing that I could really change is, or at least adapt, is my perception and my experience. So I cry when I need to cry, and I get the big, crazy sadness cries. The wake up in the middle of the night when I had that dream, there was no stopping the tears from my body. Even talking about it right now, there's no stopping the tears from your body. But I still can laugh about riding Dumbo Ride when I'm telling the story to a friend. There's different portions to the grief, and more often than not, I'm going to look for, I hate to be super cheesy, but I'm going to look for the pie in it. I'm going to look for the pursuit of my internal evolution. How am I growing from this? You know, when my father passed away, if he wouldn't have passed away, I was so afraid of how we were going to make decisions without him. Well, guess what? We all learned how to make decisions without him. That was really great. That needed to happen too. It was sad that he wasn't there to make the decisions with us, but it was also empowering and beautiful that we got to make those decisions on our own, without judgment, without scrutiny, without the things that sometimes were kind of hard to take from him. And even right now, like, I love my mother so much, but I had a lot of worry and a lot of fear about my mother and her health and her mental senility and the things that were happening to her as she was going to grow older. And right now, I don't have that anymore. Right now, I have the process of learning to love her in ways I've never loved her.
Well, it's like we talked about last week with the term private reality.
Yeah.
You know, every relationship has its own uniqueness.
Mm-hmm.
And the people in that relationship are allowed to grieve the loss of a person their way.
Yep.
And that's all you can hope to do. A lot of times, whether it's siblings or friends, or you see a stranger come to a celebration of life and you're like, y'all wasn't even close.
Right.
And you take that personal. But at the end of the day, you don't know about their private reality or their private relationship with each other. You know, sometimes grief can be a place for opportunity. A lot of things grow from grief.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can be connected with people exclusively because you're grieving the same person at the same time in the same space. And sometimes a passing person can bring two people together and their passing creates a hole that wouldn't have been had they not passed,
Right.
right? And there's just so many other ways that we grieve. We grieve jobs. We grieve
Yeah.
the fact that our kids go from 6 to 16
The
in
stages.
seemingly a blink of an eye, and we grieve the things that we can no longer do. You know,
I've grieved a tree. I don't know why that just popped in my head, but I once was obliterated. This is after my dad died too, so I had already been duking it out with grief. But there was a tree in Sylvester Park that had just been there for forever, for all the memories, for all the things. And it got taken down in a storm. And the whole time I was like, there was a stump there. And I thought, I was so upset. Why didn't they turn it into a chair? Why didn't they turn it into something that we could remember it by? Why didn't they keep the roots in the ground? Why,
Yeah.
you know? And then boom, the tree ball and everything was gone eventually, and it's not there now. But like, whoof, grief, big grief.
Yeah.
Over a tree. So like, it can really be anything, and it doesn't even matter what your grief history is. You could get hit hard at any time if you are willing, I guess, to see nature for what it is.
Just as always, don't forget to give yourself grace.
Yeah.
When you're grieving and whatever the grief stems from, give yourself grace. Allow yourself the reality that there is no right or wrong way to grieve or to process loss. Just, it's nature. Grief is nature.
Yeah, I
So
would like
it's
to.
going to affect people differently.
I was going to say I would like to go back to my analogy about Grief Mountain. But what I could offer you, I guess, is when my father died and I was going up to the top of Grief Mountain, I thought that there was an end goal. I thought I had to get up the mountain as fast as I could. And when I was at the top of it, I like won Grief Mountain. I was on the top of it. I'm done. Like, it's over with. And then my mom died and I got shot back down to the bottom of Grief Mountain. Now I have to go back up again. And I have to process the passing of my mother. And as I'm walking up Grief Mountain this time, I'm not on a time crunch. There is no end game.
Going up the hill like this.
Yeah, I'm stopping.
Instead of trying to.
Absolutely. I'm giving myself snacks. I'm taking a break. I'm looking around. I'm seeing the environment. I'm enjoying myself. I'm breathing. You know, and this concept of giving yourself grace. Like, you're going to get up to the top of Grief Mountain, sure, and you're going to see the learning someday. But you might also have to come back down again. And you don't want to hurt yourself on the way up so that you still have strength to go back up again. So just be kind to yourself. Take the breaks that you need. Give yourself the love and the nourishment that you truly deserve, because you're a human being. And I think, like, just like air in our lungs and our heart beating, like, it's something, we don't send a memo to our heart. Can you thump for me? Can you thump for me? Like, there's some control variables that we just don't have here on Earth. And life can be a lot easier if you just allow the process to unfold as you climb and grow in your internal evolution from anything and everything that you are grieving and processing. I don't know how much further we'll get into this today, but this topic is as big as a mountain or a mountain range.
It's as vast as nature is.
It's as vast as nature. So if you guys want to continue these conversations, please let us know, and we can have more chats about grief. And or if you want to meet one-on-one with B and I and maybe share your grief stories, we are always here to listen and be loving. And
y'all did show up for
yeah.
Facebook. Now show up for YouTube. Try to get us to 500 subscribers.
That would be super cool.
On YouTube.
Ooh,
that would be
dirty
cool.
Request.
It is a dirty request.
Shamelessly dirty.
All right, we're going to get into part 2, starting with Priscilla revealing the answer to the quote at the beginning.
Who said that?
Anne Lamont is the speaker of our beautiful quote earlier. And so, born in On April 10th, 1954, Anne Lamott is an American novelist and nonfiction writer. She is also a progressive political activist, public speaker, and writing teacher. Lamont is based in Marin County, California. Her nonfiction works are largely autobiographical. Lamont's writings marked by their self-deprecating humor, my favorite, and openness, cover such subjects as alcoholism, single motherhood, depression, and Christianity. Some other quotes by Anne Lamott are: "Hope begins in the dark, the stubborn hope that if you just show up and try to do the right thing, the dawn will come. You wait and watch and work. You don't give up. There is nothing as sweet as a comeback when you are down and out, about to lose, and out of time. I do not at all understand the mysteries of grace, only that it meets us where we are, but does not leave us where it found us."
Okay.
It also says, "Your problem is how you are going to spend this one odd and precious life you have been issued. Whether you're going to spend it trying to look good and creating the illusion that you have power over people and circumstances, or whether you are going to taste it, enjoy it, and find out the truth about who you are. The opposite of faith is not doubt. It is certainty. It is madness. You can tell you have created God in your own image when it turns out that he or she hates all the same people you do."
All right. She got quotes.
Yeah, I love it. What an interesting perspective.
Yeah, let's get with these 4 agreement cards.
Okay.
Shake off some of that.
Yeah, grief.
Nature.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, first one I'm going to read is agreement number 1: be impeccable with your word. Your word is the power that you have to create. It is a gift that comes directly from God. Like magic.
I got double don't make assumptions, so I'm wondering what the universe is trying to tell me there. But don't make assumptions. Assume nothing. In any kind of relationship, you can make the assumption that others know what we think and what we do not have to say we do not have to say what we want. We assume they are going to do what we want because they know us so well. If they don't do what we want, we feel hurt and think, "How could you do that? You should know."
Might as well read the other one. I'll save this one for last.
Perfect. This one has some butterflies on it. It says, "Discern the truth," with a key on a book and butterflies. "The problem with making assumptions is that we believe they are the truth. We make an assumption, we misunderstand, we take it personally. Then we react by sending emotional poison with our words. This creates a whole big drama for nothing." And I think we could wrap that right into grief, big time. You can't ever make assumptions when you're processing grief, and when you do, it kind of makes a whole lot of drama that you probably don't even need.
Well, I think maybe the don't make assumptions was doubled down because it's, again, not only do you want to give yourself grace when you're grieving, but give others their grace in grieving, especially when, like I had mentioned earlier, you're grieving the same person.
Yeah.
You know, siblings in a situation grieving a parent, or siblings grieving another sibling, or multiple friends in a friend group grieving the loss of a friend. It isn't a competition who was closer and who's grieving harder.
No.
Everybody has their right to experience nature in their own way.
Yeah.
Segues right into this card. Always do your best.
Yeah.
This was not by design. Surrender and let go of the past. Whatever life takes away from you, let it go.
Yeah.
When you surrender and let go of the past, you allow yourself to be fully alive in the moment. Letting go of the past means that you can enjoy the dream that is happening right now.
Yeah, I love this. It reminds me actually, I should start quoting him, but it's a quote from my father, Stanley Zell. um, but
Stanley's out.
Stanley Zell, thank you so much for this one. But he said, nobody dies because they want you to go with them.
Mm.
So remember that you're alive.
Mm-hmm. So I believe we are on day 17 because last episode we read
that's
2
right.
so that we would catch up with the title of the episode with the day of the read. This is our daily read of Keep Effin' Going by Joshua Smith
and Jordan Davis. Thank you so much for this book. And also remember that you can purchase it on Amazon, and any of the money that goes towards that support also then benefits a nonprofit. So you're doing a little philanthropy.
Shout out for your philanthropy. All right, I'll read the first part. And if Priscilla's willing,
I think so.
She'll read the second part. Day 17. Embrace the journey. Life is a journey and is full of twists and turns. But that's what makes it exciting. Embrace the journey and enjoy every step of the way. Don't focus too much on the destination because the journey is where the real growth and learning happens on Grief Mountain.
On Grief Mountain.
I added that.
Take your time. Action item. Today, take a moment to appreciate the journey you're on. Reflect on how far you've come and think about all the growth and learning that's happened along the way. That'll help you stay motivated and inspired to keep pushing forward. Thanks, universe.
Everything seems to align nicely on this podcast.
Absolutely.
I have to say.
My groceries were $7.77 before I got here, and I thought, oh, here we go. It's going to be a good one.
We had a super in-depth conversation, and we're like, oh, we just had that conversation at 3:33.
Yes. Oh, totally. Boom, boom.
Yeah. All right, so this is the segment. This is the second half of the show where we give you some tools. We got these cards, better than yesterday. Here come your daily challenges. Mm-hmm. Random as hell. Throwback pick is what mine says. Find some pictures of yourself from at least 5 years ago and celebrate how much you've grown.
I love that.
You've grown and matured a lot, and that's always something to celebrate. Just saying.
I love it. Do not disturb. Better than yesterday, 102. I love this. Don't check your phone first thing this morning. Wait at least an hour. Take control of your life and your day. You'll get to your emails when you get to them. I love this. There recently was a content creator on TikTok, and there was like all this drama and dirty, icky poo-poo. And she didn't look at her phone for the whole morning. And then she went and she was like, what in the world have you guys been up to today? And her day had nothing to do with that. Her day was way calm and relaxed, and she had a nice breakfast with her family. Nice. And she had no idea about the tea because she stayed away from her phone for a few hours. So I accept this challenge. I think that's a great one.
All right, you got anything off the top for anger management strategy? Just something quick?
Yes, I think that a big part of anger management that is by far one of the greatest tools that I've realized is that you can't fix everything in a moment, and if needs aren't being met, there's no resolution other than meeting your own needs. So, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Halt. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. So, like, if you're dealing with, like...
Halt.
Right, exactly. If you're dealing with a toddler, okay, and the toddler is so upset about what they're going through, and they are hyperventilating even, because you know when they get really upset, they start to do that to try to cope and to get by. It's usually because they are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And when you meet those needs, somehow all of the other stuff can be resolved with a lot more ease. So I know a certain person, I'm going to leave this person, I'm going to leave her name out of it, but she might be 4 years old and I might know her really well. And she was having some time and she was super upset. And eventually she said, I need protein, because she was hungry. Then she said, I need a hug, because she was lonely. And she said, I probably should go to bed soon, because she was tired. And magically, she wasn't so angry. And I thought, ooh, look at you being the best teacher I've ever met in my life.
So what I just heard that 4-year-old do was identify those needs.
Identify the needs.
So there's your anger management lesson for
What's
the day.
really going on? Because you know you're not. Identify. You know it's not like you might be super upset with your boss or whatever. There could be a million different situations that are making you angry or forcing anger to come out of you. But what's the bigger picture? What needs are not being met and continually not being met that are then getting you to the place to where your resolve is anger. Try not to make the resolve anger and try to meet your own needs.
Curiosity fosters connection.
100%.
Get curious with yourself.
Love
Stress
it.
less cards
Woo-hoo.
are second to last act of the podcast. Oh my goodness, I love this one. This card says, thank yourself for being. Behind all your doings, independent of your objectives, goals, and actions, is you. The truth you will show when you give up doing anything for a while. Close your eyes and thank yourself for being able to just be. Even if it feels hard not to do anything, just sit there and thank yourself for being.
Right.
Thank yourself for being so much more than what you prove by things you say and do. Gratitude helps us feel positively rooted in the present moment. Experiencing the here and now reduces stress.
I love this. And to be like authentic and honest, I really struggled with that card a couple months ago. And I would sit there and I would be like, wow, look at how uncomfortable you are. Wow, you can't just be. You couldn't just be right now in this moment. You can't just be. That's not something you're capable of doing. And I was getting kind of hard on myself. And then I would sit there and I'd breathe and I'd say, okay, you know what? I deserve to just be here. That's it. I don't owe anybody anything. I don't need to get anything done. I'm not trying to prove that I'm worthy. I just get to be here. It's nice. And then eventually the uncomfortability started to fade. And now, and it hasn't even been that long. It's just been a couple months. Now I'm like, oh, I love that I could just be. I love it. I could do it all the time. It's one of my favorite things. And I'll just sit there and I don't even need to like, I used to have to be and I would be like knitting or be and I would be writing or be and I would still have to do something. I still have to make something in order to be. But right now I can legitimately sit anywhere in any environment and I can just be there. And I feel great. I feel totally okay in my skin. So it just took some practice and some gratitude. But it was wonderful. And a lot less stressful. Cheer yourself on like I just did. Thinking of something you feel you need cheering on or praise. Make your own positive affirmation. When you are alone and there is a mirror available, look yourself deep in the eyes and repeat the affirmation. At first, the words may not ring true and may feel hard to believe, but carry on repeating regardless. To finish, smile to yourself. When you speak to yourself more positively and smile, you will feel better. And a part of you will start believing the words and reacting to that smile. This may also change the way you speak to others. Positivity creates more positivity and reduces the effects of stress.
Stress less cards. There you have it.
Yeah.
But also, that sounded like a variation on the spell to creating your very own magic mirror. Just saying.
100%. Also, it reminded me of something that's been happening that's kind of really interesting. So, back to the blueprint agreements to recovery, which is something that we base a lot of what we talk about here on. When I started a lot of my like recovery, emotional recovery journey, there was a sentence that I read and I did not believe it. This was not an affirmation that I believed. I totally had resistance to it in the way of like thinking that I believed it all the way. But then I started to say it and I did start to smile and I started to do the mirror work too. And then now we were in a class this last week and everyone started to notice that every time we go around in the circle and we all read one of the agreements, I always get that agreement. Like every single time I get that agreement. And so then when I get it now, I literally smile and I'm like, this is such a hoot. That agreement is, although I may have been a victim, I agree today that I am not a victim and I will not victimize anyone in the process of my healing journey. And it makes me smile.
As it should.
It worked.
Wait a minute. I've seen this one before.
Bucket list.
Bucket list.
Tried to double up.
Wish list. What are you guys going to do before you kick the bucket? These are all randomly selected from... Oh, this is a nice one. See all 7 continents.
Ooh, that's great. Mine's really fun. It says learn an instrument, which I used to play the saxophone for like 6 years.
My uncle had drums. He tried to teach me like the little banjo drums.
I want to pick it back up. Let's pick it back up. Let's do it. Let's pick it back up.
I don't know if I want to play the drums, but I'm not opposed to messing with something. Maybe a keyboard.
Woo, there we go. I love it.
All right. It has been... I can't even... It's been nature.
It's been nature. All encompassing.
It's been nature. Lots of pie. Appreciate you. Make sure you like, subscribe. Tell your people about us.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourselves.
I just wanna catch you a dream or two, bring it to reality from me to you, cause they don't understand what belief can do, but I'm the kind of man to make a dream come true.
What's in your bucket list?